This has taken me so long because I'm like, oh, I can retouch it. Hold up. Let me get rid of the bags. The bags. Create hide live video. What's that mean? Oh, yeah. Retouch on. Ooh, okay. I'll turn the retouch off. Or should I keep it on? This doesn't matter. I've low key considered. One second. Um, I feel like they've changed so many of the settings, but also they like haven't. Oh, it's right there. There we go. Boom. There we go. All right. All right. All right. All right. Okay. Hi. Hold up. Wait. Oh well, I guess it wouldn't. Yeah, that's fine. Whew, goodness. I'm using my phone today, if you can tell. And with my phone, I don't get the ability to just like chop it to like here. So you get all this. It's fine. So I have the Places Oracle. I think I might start doing the lives in parts. I was watching the last, well, part of the last video, and like takes me sometimes so long to like set everything up and like ramble and then like get into the cards, and I was like, I could do one live to get it set up, maybe unlist it so if someone wants to watch it they can, and then just like in the next live actually like do the thing, right? So anyway, what am I doing today? I think today is a new moon, maybe. I was like, I want to go live, and then I was like, I guess, oh, I can't timestamp. It's fine. Um, I have the Places Oracle. That's what we're gonna start with, and then we'll go from there. So I have to remember the camera's here. So let us see what is up. Excuse me. I also wanted to put the booster pack cards together. Oh gosh. And just like draw 15. Probably off the top. But we'll see. The hospital, emergency services, and proper healing. Can you see it? Can you see it? The trail at the cut. Also, I knew I was gonna do this on my phone today, quote unquote. Knew. I had an idea. Hey, Holly, how you doing? I've been all right. I've been better. I mean, personally, I'm okay. I feel like I don't know if it's because of Cancer season. If it's what Jupiter moving into Cancer. I guess it'll be moving into trine my Sun and conjunct my Mars. I've been kind of in my feels a little bit for maybe about a week or so. And then today, excuse me, because today I'm like, what is going on? And then I was like, oh, North Node is in Pisces. And after it's in Pisces, it's going to be in Aquarius. And I was like, oh. Because I was going to do that. I was going to pull before and after Saturn and breath. Because for the last little bit, it's just been like passively on my mind. What the fog being the breath of Saturn and not a function of Neptune is. And now I'm like, is that North Node Pisces? I don't even know where the node is in Pisces. Actually, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I've been alright. Yeah. Yeah. Fire station and lighthouse. Beacon of safety illuminating paths, and city's first responders' readiness to respond. Interesting. Can you see that? I can't see. There we go. They're like gold. So I don't even know if you can see it. It's just like, I guess this is it. But anyway. Alright, so I'm gonna get 2 places. And I'm gonna get the place where we actually maybe only get 1 place. Now, where are we now? I'm gonna keep shuffling until I get a clean flip or a clean full. Oh. A dirty flip turned into an almost dirty flip turned into a dirty fall. So 2 cards fell out. One of them in reverse, one of them upright. Also, one of them face up, one of them face down. So the card that came out face up and upright is Nature's Playground, Escape the Mundane, Forest. The card that came out in reverse and face down is the Amusement Park, Whirl of Colors, Laughter, and Thrill. Well, I guess an amusement park in reverse is pretty easy to. No laughter, no thrill, no colors. Bottom of the deck is Village, close knit community, engage meaningfully. So we have a card of meaningful engagement with Escape the Mundane, Laughter, and Thrill. That's an interesting combination. I think I am actually going to keep that in reverse because there's a certain element of situational awareness that's here, right? Like, not every moment is necessarily meant to be a joy filled, super happy, fun one, right? Especially when immediately faced with certain circumstances. And to engage meaningfully is to not only consider a desired outcome, but also to consider present circumstances. And if there is an awareness, to be thoughtful of the past. This is something I've kind of been thinking about lately too, because the past, has it been a week yet? Sure. Excuse me, in the past week or so, it's been a whole lot of like different strokes for different folks kind of energy over here, right? Because I'm super quick to be like, this don't work for me, that don't work for me. I think I try to have a balance of like, I know and understand that this doesn't work for me. I know that this works for some people, but in general, as a message or approach to the general collective at large, just like make sure or be mindful that what works for others works for you. And that, like, you're not just doing it because someone else told you to do it. And it works for a lot of people. So I try to play the balance, I think. But that's been coming up like a lot lately. Not a lot, but it has been. And because of that, there are some ideas, narratives, stories, events, circumstances. There are some circumstances that I would never find myself in because I am who I am. But just because I wouldn't find myself in those circumstances doesn't mean that like no one will. You know what I mean? Um, or it doesn't necessarily mean that something isn't accurate or relevant, because to some it may be. So because the village is here, I am going to use the wild unknown. Archetypes. Yeah, meaningful engagement is, it's interesting. Because I think there are times where it's like, I mean, I guess the context of the world is the context of the world, right? There are times when, like, let's say that something is going on in the personal life of someone that we know and care about, and we want them to, like, feel better. So our intention of engaging them in conversation may be to, like, lift their spirits or to get them to laugh or to whatever. But that maybe partially for them, maybe partially for us, especially if we don't know how to handle, like, heavy emotion, or, like, if we're not comfortable in that, then, like, we lighten the mood for our own sake rather than for the betterment of somebody else. Necessary. I mean, it's like manyfold, right? But again, it's like that may not necessarily be what they need most at that moment. Like, let's say that what they need more than anything is to feel a comforting presence in a way that's like, it doesn't matter what you're going through right now. Like, I still want to be, like, I still want you to be in my life type of energy, right? And if that's what that person needs, to approach them with, like, oh, like, let's just, like, have a good time and, like, let's lighten the mood, don't be so heavy, then it can play into, and this is where that, like, conscious awareness or an idea of what someone's been through in the past may come into play. Because, like, let's say that they have experienced many people who, like, only want to be around them when things are good, or they only want to be around them in a certain, like, scenario situation when they're in a certain mood. So to approach them with that, like, don't be so heavy, blah 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 blah, right? Maybe that plays into their whole, like, okay, well, here's another person that, like, only wants to be around me when things in life are going great, or blah 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 blah, whatever, right? Now this is, like, reinforcing this thing that I've experienced. And if someone is lightening the mood because they don't feel comfortable and they can't sort of disengage that discomfort in order to be present with someone, then it kind of does play into that. So it's not necessarily completely untrue, even if someone's intentions aren't necessarily to do that. Right? And so that's why it's this, like, meaningful engagement. But it's a meaning, it's a courtesy, it's a level of consideration that extends beyond one's own personal comfort or whatever. Engage meaningfully, close knit community. Oh my gosh. There we go. That's the one thing about, like, going live on a phone. Okay. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Are you serious? Ugh. Hold up. Oh no. There we go. It froze for a second. All right, I'm back. Yeah. Gas station is behind the village. Essential pit stop, take a break and refuel. Okay, so we have this meaningful engagement where we escape the mundane. And again, it's such an interesting. It's almost like there are many ways, many paths, many things that can sort of be done to escape the mundane. And not all of them are necessarily like, let's just pretend like everything that's happening isn't happening and let's just like laugh and have a good time. Right? Because for a community to pull closer together in like solidarity, compassion, support is another escape. And it doesn't have to be through like a lightheartedness. It's through the presence of, I was going to say compassionate presence. Cool. So I'm going to move these off to the side. This is like the working area in front of me. And then that's like where the cards go after they've been pulled. If I still need to like see them over here. So I was, like I said, I was going to pull before and after Saturn and breath to see what that breath of Saturn is. But village came out and forest. Now there's not an archetype of an amusement park, but that card was in reverse anyway, so maybe we don't need an archetype of amusement park. So from the well-known archetypes, I'm going to pull before and after the village and before and after the forest. The pilgrim comes to mind for some reason, but maybe it's because the pilgrim goes on the pilgrimage outside of the village and not necessarily for any other reason. I am not sure. There we go. The mask and the bridge. Oh, look at the colors. How similar the colors are. Is that Yu-Gi-Oh? The face and the mask? I think that's Yu-Gi-Oh. Oh, my phone is here. I can't look it up. I don't need the distraction. Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, I'm pretty sure. Generation X. Like the... Oh, gosh. Alright, I'll give it one more, and then I'll cut it. Looking before and after the forest and the village, and I'm going to pair the cards before and the cards after. So... From the bottom, we have the orphan. This is interesting. I was watching. I watched like a minute. Give It to Me Straight. Who was on? It was Evie Oddly and Maddie Morphosis. It's a podcast. I was watching like 2 minutes of the video part of a podcast, and someone had mentioned how like the weather was lugubrious, and so I looked it up. Well, they said what the word meant, and then I looked it up, and then I was like, oh, that's like Goob from Meet the Robinsons. He was very lugubrious. And in the movie, they're orphans. And the orphan is here, so. And behind it is the one in reverse. But it almost doesn't matter what orientation the one comes out in, because the image is like, it doesn't necessarily differ. Extremely. Under the orphan, or under the one in reverse was the comic in reverse. Under the comic is the king. Now in the comic, this cat thing used to creep me out. But then I saw like behind the eyes of the cat, there's like a person. There's a person in there. And maybe this could be the energy again with the amusement park in reverse. It's like I guess what behind a lot of comedians and comedy is like some level of tragedy. They say. And so it's like it's this happy sort of mask, but it's in reverse. That this makes me think. For some reason, this is it's making me think of like CCTV footage. It's that I also like. I put 24/6 on accident just because I got in the habit of doing it, and I didn't notice until like I had moved the screen, and I was like, I'll just leave it. But it's like CCTV footage of a person or of a being, some kind of phenomena, but it's like blurry. It has like this halo aura. It's like the feed is distorted. But it's like if you zoomed into it, it would be like this orphan. Like if you could see it without the distortion, it would be this. Also, I don't. I guess we are talking about the village, and we were talking about there was the energy of the pilgrim because of the pilgrimage. When the pilgrim leaves the village on their pilgrimage, one of the things they pass through is the forest. We saw the bridge. Um, I don't. I can't remember if that was collective, more collective, or if that was like more specific to a certain person when the story of the bridge came out and the forest. um, but there is an energy here that is something kind of like um, something or someone being like the only one of their kind. And that's why it's like this orphan energy. Because it's like parents, it's tribe, it's family isn't here. And then with the comic, again, you have someone pretending to be something else. Knowingly or unknowingly. Um, right. It's like a child raised by wolves or Tarzan raised by apes, right? But they don't see any other humans. And so you could say they're like a wolf or an ape in the body of a human or a human that has adapted to whatever the social structure is of the wolves and gorillas. But that humanity, the human, is still in there. And so it's interesting that King would be upright behind the comic in reverse. Semyaza did come out the last time we used the angels. And it is kind of that Semyaza energy. What was it? As the angels sang, a single speck of light fell to the earth from the heavens. Or as the angels saying, a light cast a shadow onto the earth, and then one day it looked up and remembered who it was, and it cast aside its human name and whatever. And Alethea is under the king. And I mentioned that because of the gold here and the gold up there. Now, upright or reversed, the truth is the truth. Cool. Anyway, that feels like an aside. Um, Looking for the forest and the village. I was about to say hello. Wow. So the unseen, and before the unseen is the vessel, which is interesting. And before the vessel is Thanatos. So we have the unseen, the forest, and the bardo in reverse. After the bardo is the desert. It's interesting that the bardo is here, especially with this Thanatos and the vessel. I don't necessarily, I would say I don't necessarily usually read these in reverse because they're circles. So, it's not necessarily easy for it to be either one or the other completely. Um, Hold up. I'm going backwards. I picked up the wrong half. Hold up. I've seen Gnosis. Okay, there we go. Now we're looking for the village. The storm, the village, and agape. And then we have Kairos. Now, like Alethea, agape is the same, upright or in reverse. We have the heart and the kiss on the other side. So before the storm is the heart and the kiss. And then Kairos. See, this is energy. The heart, the kiss, the storm, and then agape and Kairos. Under Kairos is Eros. And then under Eros is the eternal child. Which is an interesting, I don't want to say foil. The word foil is coming to mind. The child is an interesting foil to the orphan. So I guess we're going to put these on the table too. And then we have the fault line under that. So, cool. So all of those, the orphan, the one in reverse, the comic in reverse, with the vessel and Thanatos. Okay. If you've seen Disney's Tarzan, this is Tarzan. Okay? Tarzan, an orphan who was the only human in the jungle or wherever they were with all of the apes. Right? Are gorillas apes? I'm sure they are, right? Or are apes, is there like a distinction somewhere? Like, I don't know. The gorillas. So, since he was a baby, orphaned, he grew up speaking their language. He himself didn't see himself as any different than any of the other gorillas, but he was treated different by the other gorillas. But to him, and like his mom was just like, you know, you're just as much of a gorilla as anybody else, which was again kind of with meaningful communication or meaningful engagement, engage meaningfully for the purpose of like not wanting your child to feel alienated or separate or different or isolated or alone. Yes, like you are no different than any of the other gorillas, but also for the sake of it's almost like invalidating their like identity or invalidating a truth of their existence. It causes has the opportunity to cause like more confusion and other stuff on the back end, right? And so maybe there's a way to go like you are different, but just because you're different doesn't mean that you're not a part of this community. It doesn't mean that you're not loved. Like you can speak to both things. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Like a huge part of so before like this part of engaging meaningfully was more so on one's own comfortability, but now there's another fold. It's engaging meaningfully is like a mini fold thing. And how do you address all of them? Who knows? But now it's like maybe not only for one's own sort of comfort, but also for the comfort of another. So anyway, we have Tarzan, right? And then Tarzan's living his life. All of a sudden, one day he meets Jane, and that's this like the heart and the kiss. And then it's like he has this realization of like these people look like me, and like I thought I was just an ugly duckling. Meanwhile, this whole time, swans exist. You know what I mean? And that's this like storm. So the heart and the kiss that are now in reverse, but it doesn't really matter, causes this internal storm. But part of this storm feels like it's of a self recognition. And it's interesting that the village is in reverse. But the so that storm of self-recognition leads to agape, leads to kairos, leads to eros. This is essentially three major arcana cards. There are 8 of these, I think. Right? Let's see. Let me see. 8 initiations. The initiations 71 to 78 are similar to the trump cards or the major arcana. 4 out of 8 are on the table. And we actually saw a 5th one in Gnosis that was fairly close to where I think where the second set came out. Why did I just put that card? Here it is. Yeah, these three: agape, kairos, and eros. Right. That leads to this eternal child. So this vessel with Thanatos, take it as it resonates. If it resonates, if it don't resonate, don't take it. And if it does, apply a heaping amount of discernment. Because this almost feels like in between incarnations, or when someone was being born coming down to earth, either before the incarnation or in between incarnations, something was foregone. And again, we have this orphan, right? The blurry orphan that, like, nobody knows. It's almost like Tarzan, but different, right? It's like if someone looked like, if Tarzan looked like a gorilla on the outside, but he was a human on the inside. And then he ended up with the gorillas. And they're like, oh, you're a gorilla like us, blah, 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 blah. And, but like, he really wasn't, but he looked like he was. Again, because the comic is here, right? On the inside, it's not a cat, it's something else. And I'm looking at all of these clasped hands, or all of the hands in Thanatos, which is almost like a, saying your goodbyes before you incarnate. And then maybe you meet up with somebody that you are meant to meet up with in the world. Maybe you don't. Anyway, the empty vessel of the orphan, where this light was separate from them, it found its home in the eternal child. There's another hand there now. Where it was one in the orphan, now there's two. And again, it's this like heart kiss storm agape whole, and then like, because whatever happened before someone incarnated here, it's like in a time outside of time, this agape after the storm triggers some kind of recollection with this Cairo sort of like moment outside of moments, mythic time. It triggers some kind of recollection of what happened here. This is the part where I'm like, I'm listening to this audiobook. I'm listening to this audiobook. He who fights with monsters. And the soul is a different partnered element of a person's being, right? There's the soul and the body, and the mind kind of sort of lives in between them, but kind of sort of mostly in the body. And when the soul is separate from the body for whatever reason, because the mind, although it's a bridge, primarily belongs to the body, there are certain things that it's like if it happens to the soul while the body and the soul aren't connected, then there is no conscious memory of it. There's just like a feeling in one's soul. And this doesn't even necessarily have to be, you could almost extrapolate this to be any moment where, and then we have the unseen in the bardo, the things that happen in the bardo that were unseen. Cool, love it. Actually, this is the truth of the comic that was hidden or disguised, separated, isolated while in the bardo of Thanatos, where this sort of separation happens. So it's almost like this, right? Like, let's say that the body is doing one thing and the soul is doing another for whatever reason. Either, like in the story, someone experienced so much pain, so much trauma that, like, the body and the mind just shut down, but their soul was still, like, fighting. And when they came to, it's like the soul remembered the fight, even though the mind had no clue what was going on, and their body was marked, because that's the body soul connection in this universe. So again, this could be before the incarnation, between incarnations, any significant moment where, like, any moment where something significant happens that we're not necessarily consciously aware of, or even like subconsciously aware of, only like a soul knowing. um yeah, so this unseen thing in the bardo, this is the truth of the comic that was ignited by this heart kiss, a heart kiss that caused the storm. And maybe the storm is like um neurons connecting. Maybe it's a bridge between the body and the soul that sparks this, like, awareness of what happened, right? It's like you could say the body is up here, or the soul is up here, and the body is down here. And with this heart kiss, something like jolts and, like, sparks this connection between the two. And in the moment, maybe the instantaneous moment, the instant that the body and the soul are now, like, have this connection, that's when, like, this agape, this kairos, this eros sort of, like, all comes into play. And whatever was displaced finds its place within the orphan to turn it into the eternal child. I feel like it is what it is. I'm just like, where are we? Not necessarily what I was expecting. Take it as it resonates, if it resonates. What does this have to do with, like, meaningful? Escape the mundane. So the mundane would be Tarzan living in the jungle with the gorillas. The escape of that would be his, like, recognition that, oh my gosh, like, I'm a human. That's why I never felt like I fit in. And, you know, my mom had good intentions, but it caused this, like, dissonance internally. Like, you're just as much of a gorilla as all the other ones. You just don't have as much hair. And, you know, this is different and that is different, but, you know, you're the same. And again, there isn't anything necessarily inherently, like, bad or wrong in any of this. It's just we do our best. Engage meaningfully. Cool. And again, like I love that the village is in reverse because it plays into that whole like orphan, like, but just because like Tarzan realizes that he's human and not a gorilla doesn't mean that all of a sudden he has to like give up one thing for the other. You know what I mean? He finds a way to marry those two things and to be both because he is both. Circumstances have made him both. And for him to be any less both is thematically question mark similar to him being told he was one and not the other. Interesting. We also, was it this card or was it something else? It wasn't this. Something came out recently. And I feel like I was like, is this like a meiosis energy? It's like all the things are lined up in the middle. And then I was like, oh, it's also like I think I was like, it's like agape in the water known archetypes. Okay. So we have the unseen and the storm as a pair. And then the bardo and agape as a pair. See, even here, it's like across the bardo with this agape, things are sort of like aligning. And this unseen storm, I don't even know. Because again, like the mind sort of floats between the body and the soul. There are some times when the mind is more, when the mind leans more towards the soul, and sometimes, what is this? What is going on? Sometimes where it leans more towards the body, right? When the body is in so much pain that it like blacks out, like the mind is gone with the body, even if the soul is still sort of like involved. And if the soul, it's like there are times when things happen in the body that the mind kind of sort of picks up on, but it's more because of like something that's happening in the soul that the mind then echoes like through the body. And the mind sort of both as the brain and the mind, right? Both the conscious and semi and subconscious, and I guess unconscious parts. Because for some reason, just looking at these as they came out without the greater context of the cards that came out like before, and after, the storm still has that a similar level of um, a sudden like connection, but with the unseen, it's like the 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 soul has done something, maybe even with the body, but the mind hasn't caught up yet. I guess you could also say because of the bardo and agape, like this could be like in the greater world, there are things that are happening, pathways that are aligning, things that are coming to fruition that like one doesn't see yet, and they will remain unseen until this connection is made outside of the bardo, right? Like you've already aligned to whatever your next opportunity, be that in love, career, or whatever, is type energy. Like as you are doing these things in your day to day, other people are doing these things in their day to day, and eventually your paths are going to cross, and then it's going to be like, whatever. Cool. I did forget about that. Uranus is it in Gemini? Maybe not yet. Oh, girl. I feel like that explains. I feel like that explains some things. I'm like, where's my iPad? I think that's my iPad. I'm gonna try to slink off. Oh, I'm gonna try to slink off to the side here and reach. Okay, yeah. Oh, cool. Time nomad. Because if Uranus is about to, I mean, Uranus has been on top of my moon for a hot minute. But if Uranus is about to move into Gemini, that means that she's on my moon. Why is Jupiter exalted in Cancer? Uranus is 29 degrees. Hold on, wait, when does Venus move into Gemini? July 4th? What? Venus crosses over into Gemini on the 4th of July. And where is Uranus at that time? Uranus is still 29 degrees. So Venus is going to conjunct Uranus in Taurus before it crosses over into Gemini, before Uranus crosses over into Gemini in a week and 3 days. Wow. That's when Venus moves. I feel like that. I feel like I'm not necessarily an astrology girly, but I feel like that gives like that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense because my moon is in late degrees of Taurus, and I'm like for the past week or so, girl, it's been like wait. I mean, Uranus has been there for a hot minute, but now that Venus is closing in too, cool. All right. Am I done with this? I mean, that was the village in the forest. I feel like I didn't really talk about Eros. what is there to say about Eros? I guess Eros. So Eros is both attraction and aversion, right? What is this? Gemini is the lovers. So, but a heart kiss can be anything. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be, it could be anything. Anything that speaks to the heart that like brushes up against the heart. But this is like the cockles of one's heart, right? It's like the depths of one's heart. Like it's the part of the heart that touches the soul, right? It's almost like if the heart is an iceberg, the soul is the waters that it sort of floats in, right? So there's a lot of the heart that is like submerged within the soul, but then there's a part of the heart that's like maybe a little bit more surface level or mundane. Yeah, mundane. Right. Like if you're like, oh my gosh, I love chocolate cake, right? Is that like a soul thing? I don't know. Maybe your soul has some tie to chocolate cake, and it is. You know what I mean? Are we done? I mean, I guess I don't necessarily have to make this a full hour. This isn't where I thought this would go, especially after engaging meaningfully. I think I'm assuming, there would be some part or point of reintegration, right? So the orphan, again, like Tarzan, just because Tarzan found Jane, excuse me, and discovered that he was human, doesn't necessarily mean that he has to give up like his family, right? He can live in multiple worlds. He can choose one or the other, but he can also choose to live in both. And so it feels like engaging meaningfully is going to take on a new role, a new meaning, or also apply when the eternal child goes back to the village. The orphan left the village and returns as the eternal child. But in the archetype of the village, like the village grows because of those who return with new knowledge, new information, news of the outside world, whatever. Hmm. Cool. Now that feels like it's pretty much it. That feels pretty much complete. So cool. This is also interesting because I've been seeing a lot of I don't know her name, but in my on Facebook, the one lady who does all the foraging, she's been popping up, and so to see the forest here is like interesting. I might have to give this a rewatch. Because personally, I'm like, okay, like levity and lightheartedness is a way, but it's not necessarily the only way. Meaningful engagement. Um, yeah, this was complete. So I guess I'll get an archetype first. And this is kind of interesting because of Scorpio. Full moon Scorpio, which was the proximity question mark. Or I guess it's more so how Scorpio holds both the void and the abyss. And also lightning came out in the Mystical Shaman Oracle cards. When I had the Mystical Shaman and the SKT, both versions, it was lightning, the Giver, Six of Pentacles, and the Demiurge, Four of Wands. And that part of that was there is what we get out of what we do, there's how we grow, and then there's like what other people get out of it. So for an artist, right, part of the mission of the artist is to create, and creation, the act of creation, does something for the artist, right? And the art that they create does something for their audience, and what it does for the audience may or may not align with whatever intention the artist had when they created whatever, but the interpretation of their art is not for them to sort of like dictate. I mean, I guess they could, but then they would be limiting their own scope of like impact, right? It's like when someone like writes a book and someone's like, "Oh, like when you did this or when you did that, like it was really like thought provoking because blah 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 blah." And then the author is like, "Oh, like I didn't even intend for that, but it's super cool that like that's something that you picked up because, you know, it really works into the story, it works with the characters and the characters are alive." So, right. It's like that. But that's where we saw like the lightning and the giver and the demiurge. Also, of course, the whole like vessel thing with the Ten of Swords destroyer. Purification of the vessel to receive a gift. I'm just like putting these in here in like different places because I got quite a few cards that I pulled out. So that's what I'm doing. So when I shuffle them, they won't necessarily all be together. Also, I've been feeling like Anima Mundi. I don't know why Unus Mundus came to mind. Um, I've been feeling like I need to be disciplined lately. Just like, you know, even if I don't feel like doing this or doing that, it's just the time to do it and get it done. The Starborn in the Stone. Okay, alright. Final card. Oh. That was a clean flip. I mean, a clean fall. The Desert in reverse. The Warrior upright. The Desert is number 37, which is a 10, and the Warrior is number 10. There you go, 10, 10. Look at that. The Desert in reverse is interesting. It just feels like it doesn't have to be. Excuse me. What's also interesting is so there was a snake in the orphan that was like semi-Ouroboros, and it's around the skull of the warrior. And also there's like the diamond gold third eye. So the gold is something that will never tarnish. The diamond is something that was forged under pressure. Hard but brittle. It's almost like at a certain point, this warrior energy, and then the heart is behind the warrior. At a certain point, it realizes that it can change its circumstance. And it's something about this diamond gold third eye. It's like you live in the desert like all your life. Born in the desert, raised in the desert, and then at some point within the warriors, it feels like active service. Or um, like the warrior finishes their training, they become an adept. They're like going out adventuring, making a name for themselves, doing stuff like that. And then it's just like they one day realize that the desert doesn't have to be a desert. And they've become powerful enough to change it. Cool. Now let's get a place. A plus. I use my phone because the internet kind of goes in and out sometimes. And so I was like, rather than using a hotspot from my phone to the laptop, I was like, I'll just use the phone and see what is up. See what's up. See what's up. Oh, yeah. The same foraging lady. She was in the desert. She was like, who was going to tell me that the desert is beautiful? She was like, y'all say that the desert doesn't have any plants or whatever, but look at all this. It was like saguro, cactuses, cacti, and like little shrubs and stuff. She was like, this is gorgeous. What do you mean? Under the stars. Night's canvas, universe unveiled. Universe unveiled is kind of wild. The village under the stars. And this was a village upright where the other village was in reverse. Cool. I need to go boil a bunch of eggs. I'm gonna make an egg curry. All right, final place. The trail again. It was a dirty-ish flip. Adventure's path, self-discovery with the storm and the agape. I guess it was the heart that kissed in the storm. Bottom of the deck is cemetery. Memories laid to rest. Legacies preserved. A legacy preserved and a self-discovered. Look how similar the trail is to the cemetery. Now, this self-discovery with I got just take it as it resonates. It can be something that is of the self or of one's lineage or whatever that has been preserved, like passed down, but not necessarily through tellings or teachings or maybe even a knowledge, knowing, or awareness, right? Almost like holes. Somebody was like, I saw it on social media. Like, this is the heat that what Hector and Zero? No, this is the heat that Stanley and Zero were out digging holes in, or something like that. Um, because they had a shared ancestral promise in the movie. It was a legacy preserved, and Stanley's family knew about it because, like the first Stanley Yoness, they were like, it's because he didn't do what he was supposed to do that our family has terrible luck. Um, but through, living life, Stanley fulfills the promise to Stanley fulfills his ancestral promise to Zero's ancestors. So it could be that, or it could be like leaving something of the self behind as a new self is forged. So like, does the trail lead into or out of the cemetery? Are they even remotely connected? Oh, and then the top of the deck is the title card, because there you go. I pulled up the deck and that was the only one that was left. Moon. Oh, Desert Stars. What? Desert Stars. When we had Under the Stars in the Desert. Moonlit ruins, desert stars, ocean's depths near and far, cards as doors to lands unseen, mystic mountains, valleys green. Each card unfolds a tale untold of sacred places in bold, and every image wisdom speaks, guiding seekers to the peaks. Oh, look. There's a mountain somewhere in here. Right. Right. Cool. So, I'll read the. I don't think I've ever read the other side. Thanks for purchasing the Places Oracle. Welcome to a shared journey of discovery and insight with our Places Oracle deck. Our goal is to connect you with the diverse energies and histories of the world, enhancing your readings and spiritual insights. Your purchase does more than expand your own practice, it strengthens our entire spiritual community. Every deck bought and piece of feedback shared fuels our mission to support and grow the connections among us, helping us all to evolve and thrive together. Thank you for being a part of our journey. With gratitude, Soul Star Magic. Cool, shared journeys. And maybe that's, the orphan. When the eternal child returns to the village, how do they meaningfully engage with the people that they once knew, with the places that once so familiar can be so alien because of how much they've changed or whatever. Anyway, thanks Holly for stopping by. I hope you all have an amazing whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. I hope that whatever you need along your path journey, where you find, this has not been what I was expecting, but I'll take it. And yeah, I'll catch y'all in the next time, whenever that is. If I can end this.